Good evening and welcome to another edition of FIA on Black Press USA and NNPA. It is a continuation of our series, Women Making Money Moves, and that is what we are doing tonight and talking to some phenomenal women. Our first guest is Tykesha Burton, and she's a journalist and she is a travel blogger. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I am excited. When I saw your information on LinkedIn, I said, this is interesting. This on so many levels. So, Tykesha, tell us a little bit about your background before we get into the blogging and the things that you're doing now.
Okay, well, I am born and raised Miami, Florida, and I went to college in North Carolina. So I slowly moved a little higher and higher north, going a little bit more north, and eventually settled in Maryland. So I'm right outside of the DC area.
So, what was your background professionally? I think you were a journalist. Do you work for television, newspaper? I think Black
Okay,
Press at one point, right? So,
yes, actually, I did. I started off in the newsroom. So I was
okay,
in broadcast at first, and I was a news writer. My professional and my career, my formal education is in journalism, and
okay.
I guess I cut my teeth on a newsroom floor for a morning broadcast in Miami. And then when I moved to North Carolina, I worked again as a associate producer, and I started freelancing as a reporter for local Black papers, one in Miami and also another here in Washington, D.C. So that's how I had my
So,
career started.
you talk about local, of course, this is NNPA, and you talk about local Black papers. What do you see as the value and how important these papers are to stay in existence and write the stories and tell the stories that they do that I think many other outlets just don't have that touch to do?
They're so integral to the community in and of itself. They're telling stories that aren't often heard in the mainstream news, and it started that way, and it continues to be that way. I worked for Miami Times in Miami, and I also worked for the Washington Informer. So I see that it's like a community, a small group of reporters who really care. Our feet are on the ground. We're in the community. We're local. We're hearing all the news, and we're getting it from the people, and we're amplifying it. And so most of the times they're very small papers, but they tell local stories that could have a national reach.
When you were doing that, did you wish that more people would turn to them and get their, I mean, obviously they have their following. There's no
Yeah.
question about that. But you have the mainstream that are telling stories, and it's the same stories. I mean, for example, of a person's missing, whether it's a white female, a Black female, though our stories won't get the highlight that they should, and then they turn to Black news outlets when there's something like that. But there's something like that going on every single day, whether it's a new business or somebody missing.
Yeah, I found that is our voices missing from the dialogue was the reason why I entered into journalism in the first place. So I got tired of seeing certain images of us on television. So I said, what could I do to help be a part of the decision making process? So I started, editing tape and picking the sound on tapes to make sure people didn't look crazy or, just get the best sound.
We
So
always talk about that, right? There's always a joke about that they get the one person who cannot say anything or
because it's entertainment. It's still entertainment, even though it's news. So we're looking for the most dynamic and catchy bite. And sometimes that includes people who, might not be looking a certain way, or it just, you have to have gatekeepers every step of the way. So whether you're sitting at the table in the newsroom and beginning the morning meeting to decide what's happening, what stories are being told, that's very important. But the stories, I know that some of the stories that touch my heart the deepest and that still stick with me are the ones I covered when I was in Black Press. I know there were stories about mothers who were fighting long ago against police brutality. I mean, decades ago. So these stories have made their way to the mainstream, but they have been in the Black paper all along.
so very, very important. Is there any words that you would like to say for those who are not subscribing to a Black newspaper in their community or in their state of the importance of that dollar going to those organizations because you work there?
Yeah. I mean, we are giving people starts that other um, bigger name papers may not look at these young kids who are up and coming reporters who are doing a great job who just want to get a chance. They are definitely a great place to start your journalism career, whether you're talking about sports, like you're going to do later today,
Yes.
or you they're dream makers. These Black newspapers can help us realize our dreams as reporters, as journalists. And it's really hard to get a job when you don't already have a job. And these
Hmm.
small papers are dwindling all over the nation. And they're also usually family owned. So it's
Hmm.
easier to get in. It's all hands on deck. You'll learn everything you need to learn. So it's very important to subscribe to these newspapers and read them because there's information that's often overlooked. And by the time it gets to the mainstream, it's a bigger problem that could have been handled on a lower level, a local level.
You just mentioned something, Tykesha, and I know that you're a travel blogger, but I just got to say this. There's been this big surge over the last couple of years of going and getting more people to look at HBCUs because of the love and attention that you get. It's hard, there's no question. They make you accountable. Do you feel that same attention is given to people who choose to start off at Black newspapers? Do they get that firm hand, but they learn how to write and see things differently than maybe you would if you go to another newspaper outlet?
I do. I believe that it was an incubator for
Mhm.
greatness.
Okay.
It
Wow.
was, people willing to show you everything they knew, teach you everything. The whole industry. It doesn't matter what you want to do. If you decide, woke up one morning and said, "Oh, I want to learn how do you do the graphics here or do photography there," it was just an open forum for learning. And I know that when I cut my teeth in broadcast news, it was rough. It was hard. There were many days that I left there crying, feeling like I didn't know if I was cut out for this, if I was talented enough. It wasn't a loving environment, let's just put it like that. But I did realize that I am meant for it and I do love the rush. And it was just for me. But some people would have given up because it,
Now, you had the news background. You're
it,
now a travel blogger. Of course, you're a journalist as well. How did that transition? Because I think a lot of people don't fully understand what a blogger is. So let's define that first. And then how did you segue from doing news into blogging and doing travel?
okay, blogging. Blogging is basically reporting or giving how-to guides. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Providing people with a how-to. For some people, blogging is look at me and I'm great and I'm awesome. But for the most part, I've always traveled for the community because not everybody can. So
Okay.
it's always been very important because everybody in my family doesn't have the funds, and I would go and bring back souvenirs. I would tell them stories, and I would have these pictures because through me they were traveling.
Oh, wow.
So that was very important to me, not just to be the only one to go, but to come back and tell a story. And when I discovered blogging, I was like, yeah, this is cool. This is really cool. And my other background, I have 2 degrees. One of them is in African American studies.
Okay.
So I'm always interested in cultures and histories. So I travel to learn and I love to teach what I learn to other people. So blogging has become for me a form in which I can teach others.
Now, did you went to UNC Chapel Hill?
Yes, I went to Carolina.
Yes, Carolina. Yes, I lived in North Carolina. What a great place. So this is kind of personal for you. I mean, I didn't see that in your bio, but to be able to use pictures, I love pictures. And you're right. If you capture the right image, you can feel what was going on at that time, or you could flash back yourself and remember what you were doing and what you were looking at. I think
Yes.
our he's going to get me. Norman has some images and we're going to bring it up, our producer. And can you tell us what we're looking at in each of these images?
Okay.
Oh my goodness. Where are you?
That is me in Antarctica.
No, wait a minute.
That's Danko Island, I think.
I have never been there, nor have I met anyone who's been there. Please tell me about that trip. First of all,
Oh,
how long did it take you to get there?
2 days.
Two
2 days.
days.
So it's 2 days. Well, longer than that. I had to fly to Buenos Aires, and then from there, It was a group. You pay for it. The whole experience is a charter flight from Buenos Aires into a small town called Ushuaia. It's the southernmost tip of the world, and from there you take a boat through um, the roughest waters, and is that my fault? I'm sorry. Through
No.
rough waters to get to Antarctica, just to tip the peninsula. So it was really, really cool. That picture, particularly, was when I was kayaking. I ain't never kayaked in my life. They said you had to have experience. I went to the local paper to find out, not local paper, but the local rec, Parks and Rec, signed up
Yes.
for one class. And I just knew that if a whale breached, I was done.
Yeah, it would be exciting to see the whale up close like that. Like I'd be excited.
No.
Yes, I would be afraid to have it that close, but that experience would be exciting for me. Okay, so Tykesha, how cold? Look at that. Oh my goodness, how cold was it? That is gorgeous. That picture.
Okay. Now I
Oh
told you I'm from Miami, so I'm a tropical person. Okay. But it was not that cold.
what?
So it wasn't. It's their summer. So it was about 40, 30 on 30, 40.
Tykesha, 40?
You
That's
can't travel
cold.
there unless it's their summer. So it's the
Okay.
opposite of us. So yeah, it was not that cold. I
So
I was dressed and ready because I don't like to be cold. So it wasn't that
yeah.
cold.
Well, first of all, I don't know why you left Miami, but okay, that's another story for another day. But so, what was that like in preparing like the days? Did it get darker sooner? How was it when you were there?
It was the sun went down about 9 o'clock in the evening. So
Oh,
the sun was up most of the time. And
okay,
then it was okay because when you get down there, you have to actually stay on the cruise boat. There's no you don't disembark and go to a hotel or anything. It's
okay,
uninhabited. So you live on the cruise ship.
okay. So I was going to ask you, is there particular dishes that they have? And I mean, usually when you do boat rides, they kind of have you sample the food of the country. Did they have that?
No, no.
Okay.
Let me tell you, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I literally thought they were going to be chucking ham sandwiches at us because I didn't expect like any real food, but it was like a real cruise with good food. So the food was just regular food, and it wasn't what I thought. I just thought it was going to be like I don't know. I thought it was just going to be a vessel where we sat in a corner and there was no amenities. So I hadn't met anybody who had gone before, so it was my first time, and yeah, I had no idea what to expect. The food was delicious.
So what was the response once you blogged about this with family and or just people seeing your blog?
Oh, they were shocked. People thought you couldn't go there, and they didn't know it was possible. And just like me, I kind of thought it was only scientists that went there and military. But there are people who do go. There are some, eco considerations because you don't want to leave too much your footprint. You want
Of
to, like, I don't really promote it too much because I think the beauty of it is it's untouched. And
sure.
it's so strange that it felt like a different world. Like it felt like I was in outer space somewhere. That's the only thing I can think of. It was otherworldly. And it was so silent that it was loud. It was like a ringing of your ear because it was so quiet. There are no trees. It's a desert. It doesn't rain. It doesn't really snow. It's considered a desert. Yeah,
Unbelievable. I can't wait to see your pictures
I'm
about that.
nerding out here. Sorry.
No, you're not. I'm with you all the way, Tykesha. So who are these adorable kids and what, maybe a beach?
Oh no, this is actually in Utah.
Okay.
We found this little tiny home right on the lip of Zion National Park. So
Okay.
it was like a 200 square foot like house, and it
Really?
was the highlight of our trip.
What made you do? I watch the shows all the time. I'm an TV person,
Me
right?
too.
Oh,
Me too.
200 square feet? That's a really tiny home.
It was tiny. So my mother, she has this obsession with tiny homes, and we just did this one night in this place. And I found it online. We booked it, and it was a surprise for her. And I actually wrote about this one of my last articles. I talked about the experience, and it was just an amazing thing because I think the pandemic taught us that we didn't need that much. We really don't
Absolutely.
need as much as we have,
Yes.
and but we were always constantly had tablets and stuff in our face. So I felt that this tiny home and this small house experience right on the lip of a national park overlooking it, we didn't turn on any electronics. We just let nature entertain us. It was a transformative experience. Made me realize that all this, I usually travel. When I travel, I do a lot of excursions and I go, and I want to see it all. And I guess the pandemic itself taught me that life is to be savored. travel is to be savored. We're supposed to enjoy every moment. And that was like that picture with me and my kids is just kind of like right there where I was really feeling that moment.
Now, what did people now with that picture? I know Norman flipped you to another one, but with being in a tiny house, right? Could you imagine being there for a year? Did the kids kind of realize, wow, we really have it good? If, I mean, people are choosing to live this way.
I
Off the grid.
do. I think the purpose is you realize that home is a place you lay your head. You're
Mm,
supposed to live outside. That's the lesson. Like get outside. Like even when we travel to Hawaii living very tiny houses for a lot of money, but most of your life is outside on the porch. You're gonna go to the beach, you're gonna surf. Life should not happen inside your house. It should I mean, of course it does, but
yes,
you gotta live outside too.
keeping active. Okay, so the next picture.
Oh, this is still Utah, but it's Hurricane Utah. It's a little further down. Me and my kiddos, we decided to. I do photography, but I've noticed over the years that I'm not in any of the pictures.
Yeah,
So
sounds like me.
we hired a company
Oh
to
wow.
take our picture, and it was like one of the first times we've done that, and it was really a nice experience not to have to put my camera because I do dabble in photography. Put my camera on interval timer and run around to the front. I have some crazy pictures of me, halfway in a picture.
Let's see if we have any more images. Oh, okay.
We love anything dealing with history.
Wow.
So I'm always incorporating history and culture in every trip we can find. This one was in Cambridge, Maryland, near the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad. I think it's a museum. And this mural, I caught this image of my son just being a kid playing around with her hand behind him. And I just loved it.
That just gives me chills looking at that picture. I did not see that when you sent that over. It literally, I mean, it's coming out of the screen at me.
And this is us being silly.
Oh,
We were invited to come and stay at a hotel in DC, and it was really swanky. So we brought our dressy clothes, and this is one of those interval timers where I put the camera on timer and I run to get in the picture. So
right.
we were able to capture a couple of images of us in this area. And this is at their this is DC Monaco. Right in there, right. I just love this elevator, and I thought it was really cool because it's a historic hotel, and we're all about history. So I thought that was super dope. These are just my kids being kids. Oh, we went to Nearest Green Distillery. I don't really do the spirits that much. I'm more of a wine gal. But my husband and my mom they were all over it. So we did a tasting tour, and
Yeah.
Nearest Green is, I don't know if you know the story, but we learned all about it. It is he is the master distiller. He's the African American master distiller who taught Jack Daniel the
What?
art of distillery.
Never
Yes.
heard this story before.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So yes, it is real. It is real. So
What?
Fawn, I think her name was Fawn Weaver. She uncovered the story, did a bunch of research, and uncovered and found his relatives, and everybody confirmed it. It was a well-known secret that Jack Daniel learned distillery and distilling from this former slave, Nathan Nearest Green.
Okay, so what city is that in? I'm sorry I didn't catch you.
That's in Shelbyville, Tennessee.
Shelbyville,
And
Tennessee.
according to I've had a couple sips because I can't do a whole shot. My husband says it's all that.
Really?
Yes, Shelbyville, Tennessee is where it's at. And I mean, it's all about his history. It's all about his family. The current master distiller is like his fifth great grandchild. Yeah.
This is the
And the
that makes
story they tell is that they were friends because there's so many times that our legacies are stolen. And this is one in which people all throughout Tennessee knew about it. And it was kind of a secret, but wasn't talked about, but they did not deny it. And Jack Daniel, the company, has said, yes, this is true.
wow. When you get a chance to go to some of these places, are you invited because you're going to be covering it, or this is just you on your dime covering these stories, historic stories that people should know about?
Half and half. So sometimes we're invited. So we were invited by the DC Monaco Hotel. They knew our stick was history that is literally like the hotel is historic, and they sent us on a tour of music and murals of DC, which is amazing. And we had a wonderful time. They invited us. And then the other part, I'm doing a lot of research on my own. I'm finding the things that interest me and my family. And I'm hoping that my audience will be interested in it as well. And we foot the dime ourselves and we pay for it. And I write about it later and hope to get some of my money back.
You know what I really love with you including in, because you gave us a number of pictures to look at, and I think it's really vital, no matter what profession you're in, you have your kids involved, which means you talk to them about what they're seeing. They're involved with what you're doing, and hopefully there'll be a level of appreciation. You know, they're young now, so they may not
Yeah.
fully get it. But I think we there's oftentimes we don't think of explaining. They'll just go on the trip. Well, there's no need to talk about it, but we do these stories. I mean, literally, when I finish, I'm going to go and do my research.
Please
I mean,
do.
Uncle Nearest,
Call me.
I tell you, you know, I didn't grow up in the States, but I like hearing these stories. It just gives
Yeah.
me a chill to know history like this. And, you know, we have to know where we've come from to know where we're going to be going. And this is just
Absolutely.
so interesting and exciting. Like I said, when I saw you and you know, LinkedIn, I just said there's something different about who you are and what you're about.
Oh,
And this is
thank
exciting
you.
to hear that. How can people follow you and support you in what it is that you're doing?
My blog is Mama Wanderlust, and that's spelled MOMMAWANDERLUST.com. And I am on Twitter and Facebook as Mama Wanderlust, just at Mama Wanderlust, MOMMAWANDERLUST. But on Instagram, I'm the Wanderlust Mama. It's like a little opposite.
Okay,
But
what does that stand for? I have that. What's Mama Wanderlust?
Wanderlust is a German word for a lover of travel. And I'm a
You see,
mom.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna have to bring you back because there's all sorts of goodies that you're throwing out at us that I love.
Thank you.
And learning, you know, this is what it's all about. Learning, educating, exciting. This is really, really interesting. And you just said geek out. I'm really excited. So is there any place that you've been to that you're like, Taylor, the world needs to know about it, or more people need to go? Any place that you want to mention to us?
I will say that the place that brought me to tears, that moved me deeply, that I can't wait to see through my children's eyes again, is Ngorongoro Crater.
Okay.
And it's in Tanzania. And it's the world's largest unbroken caldera. So basically, it's like an asteroid came and fell into the earth. It's unbroken. It's a circle, and it's a preserve. And you can see almost all 5 of the big 5 animals in Tanzania within this. And it's all green. It's beautiful. It's lush. It's awe-inspiring. If there was ever anybody who doubted anything, I said that, you know, any doubts I have, that's where I found myself, my creator, my everything. Like, this is it.
That's amazing. So what do you have as we, you know, for the rest of the year? What are some things that you're working on or traveling? Because we're getting ready to hit the summer months, right? Now's the time to get out with everyone.
Yes, well, we discovered during quarantine, during not quarantine, but during the COVID time, we discovered a close by destination that we fell in love with. It's Wilmington, Delaware, something we pass by all the time going to New York or Philly. It is amazing. They have castles, girl, castles.
What? Wait a minute.
Like Europe.
What? Okay, so tell me some more. I know we have like 3 minutes left. So castles in Wilmington?
They have castles and gardens. The place that these
Joe Biden state?
Yes, you would never think. And I passed by it so many times heading up to New York or, you know, going to Philly real quick.
Yes.
Wilmington, stop there. It's amazing. It's an amazing place. It's amazing. But next, after that, we're going on a far-flung trip for the first time in 3 years. We'll be going to Cairo.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I loved my trip there. I went to Cairo. I did Egypt. I did the Nile. It is incredible. And then
I can't wait.
In Dubai. Can you believe that?
Oh my gosh, we're going to do a side trip, but my kids don't know yet. We're going to Paris. It's a secret. They're going to be so excited.
This is, you know, my daughter, we haven't done it in the last 2 years, but every year we leave out of the country, and we're now in the process of renewing the passport really quick and getting her, deciding where we're going to go. And I think it's so important because it's so funny because she says, you know, she'll joke and say, Mom, where are we going? I'm like, well, why don't we just, you know, just do the key, you go down the Florida Keys. She goes, no, I want to be out of the country. So she's expecting, I mean, she's done
my kids are bougie too. They're talking about Madagascar. I was like, you know what?
Oh, I love it. I love it. It really broadens the horizon. So you're planning on these trips. And then again, would you say again where we can follow you on the blog and just see some of the places and images of places you've been in the
Oh,
past, too, right?
yeah, in the past, I'm still writing about stuff that I've experienced. So I am mostly at mamawanderlust.com
Okay.
and on Instagram, the Wanderlust Mama.
Now, I have to
So,
ask you this because my phone has been tinging and asking you. People are saying, how do bloggers make money? So I don't know if they're
oh,
inquiring for themselves, but how do bloggers make money from this?
bloggers make money not on blogging. That's the
Okay.
secret. The bloggers, I believe, the ones that I've met that are very successful make money off of teaching how to blog,
Okay.
and they make a lot of money off of images. Now, I get paid to do or to cover a destination. So sometimes destinations will invite us out. We'll come
Yes.
out. We'll write. We have a contract. It's like a real business. You have a contract. They have deliverables. There are things I'm supposed to deliver, whether it's XYZ images, because I am a photographer as well. Um, XYZ reels, and they pay you based on what you negotiate. So there is money here, but the biggest money is teaching and or photography.
Well, that's really interesting because I would think if I was a destination and especially family oriented to see you and your young children with your husband, like those are some picture perfect moments
Oh, thank
that I
you.
would definitely love to put on advertisement, like, come here. And so I think this is really exciting. And again, Tykesha Burton, she's a
Thank
journalist, she's
you.
a travel blogger. I just have to thank you for coming on the show, accepting my LinkedIn invite and responding because I've been wanting to have you on the show for a
Thank
couple
you.
of weeks now, and we've just been so booked up, but it's just been a pleasure getting a chance to know you. Any words of encouragement that you can share with people that are thinking about possibly blogging and or who are blogging to just get to the next level?
I would say if you're already blogging, start asking to get paid. During the George Floyd time, there was a lot of allyship happening, and a lot of our white sisters were telling us how much they were getting paid, and we were very shocked. It caused a ripple through the Black blogger community. We were doing the same jobs, not getting paid the same amount of money. So talk to your friends who are other bloggers and ask them what they're asking for, but ask to get paid. And people have budgets. Just ask what their budgets are.
So that's another question. Can you just really quickly, if you don't know, sometimes you don't even know how to ask. How does that go? Is there a going rate? And I know it fluctuates for states and maybe even the topic, but is there a price that they should work with? I mean, how do you start this conversation?
Well, I took a class on pitching, but
Right. Okay.
it really matter. It really the determining factor is how many followers you have, how much engagement you have, if it's a social media situation, and you have to negotiate based off of that. And I guess you could just start by asking, do you have a budget when people reach
Sure.
out to you? What's your
Sure.
budget?
So
That's a good way to start the negotiations.
what's a good number to that really matters? I mean, I know if you get 1 million, that's a lot, but what's a good number that you should have as far as followers that you could turn the heads of possible sponsors or companies to
I
endorse you?
don't subscribe to that because I think that the nano influencer,
Oh,
which is somebody who it has 10,000 or less, I think
yes,
that's the new wave
really
because
is great.
their engagement is higher because people really identify with them, so
Hmm.
their influence is greater. So a big company can hire 10 nano influencers for a fraction of the cost. Maybe they're still going to pay you, but
Yeah.
they can get more engagement, more reach with a smaller. I think these big time Instagram accounts where people they're making a lot of money, but they're not really real to people anymore.
They're so
So
moved.
yes, they're looking for regular people to because you want somebody you can trust, just like news. You're
Yeah.
going to watch the same TV station because you trust the anchors. It's all about trust. So I don't subscribe to a number amount. I know it sometimes helps if you have a swipe up capability, which was a 10,000 follower
Yes.
number, but I don't really think that matters anymore. I think you can make some money. Just ask. Just ask. That's my
I love
ask.
it. And I've learned a new word, nano influencer. So we have
Oh
learned
yeah.
a new word. We've learned something about blogging. If this is something you love to do, especially if it's something you love to do, and then to ask to be paid for something that they're profiting off of or could benefit off of is just a win-win. Tykesha
Absolutely.
Burton, you are fabulous. I will
Thank
definitely have
you.
you on before the summer is out to tell us where, talk about where you've been and maybe
Okay.
give us some ideas of where we could go. Again, I have to thank you so much for
Thank
joining us for
you.
our series, Women Making Money Moves. I appreciate you joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, we're going to switch gears now. Okay. I am so excited. We have three phenomenal women that are joining us, and their background, they're connected to an organization that many people know that is WHIPS. It's women that's in the sports arena. So I'm going to introduce you now. First, we have Jazette Lane English, and then we have Marcia Dyson, and then we have Joumana Kidd. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, how are
I want to make
you?
sure before I give this the full rundown. So Jazette Lane English, with the wonderful funky glasses up top. I love it.
Sorry, I cannot see you without them.
I
Sorry.
love the glasses. Believe me, I love them. She's CEO, Speaking English 5 Sports Communication and WHIPS. Most people know that. She's also an author. Below her is Marcia Dyson, and she's an international marketing professional. And then to her right is Joumana Kidd. She's a journalist. She's a TV host. And we are so excited to have you three ladies here. But you're tied in by WHIPS. So Jazette, would you please tell us what WHIPS is and its purpose?
Okay, so WHIP stands for Women Inside Professional Sports. My daughter and I were inspired to start the company 10 years ago, even before that, honestly. But we started off with a sports column where we shed light on what women inside professional sports were doing, whether she's the athlete, the mother, the coach, the agent, the daughter, whatever. If she's affiliated with professional sports, we wanted to share her story because, as you know, in pro sports, most of the time the focus is on the men. So we started off with a sports column and we were being featured in magazines. And from there, we started a conference in Washington, D.C. In fact, our very first conference, Marcia and Sharice Jackson Jordan were the two that rallied behind us and helped us pull that off. They were the executive chairs for that conference and got us our first sponsorships. So Marcia has been with us from the very beginning. And then we decided to write a book, WHIPS Unscripted, where we pulled the interviews that we utilized for our sports column. We took some of the best quotes and compiled them into a book, and we created WHIPS Unscripted. And then we got nonprofit status, started doing events, mentoring kids, and that's how we got to where we are today. So that's essentially how we started. I used to be married to a professional basketball player. Now my son is a pro. So I've been affiliated with professional sports for over 30 years. Over 30 years now. So we have a huge network of WHIPs that span across the NBA, the NFL, the MLB, the NHL, soccer, pro boxing, you name it. It's just across the board. So it's not just basketball, although that was my original connection to professional sports.
10 years ago, though, Jazette, they weren't thinking about women being interested or being a part of sports at all. I mean, they kind of do it now, but I mean, it just seems like recently they're really pushing it up to the forefront and mentioning women that have been there all along and leading and making decisions behind the scenes. So I can't imagine some of the struggles that you may have gone through to kind of really get what you wanted out, that there was an organization then that we need to galvanize and be able to share stories and inspire.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And now back then there was the NBA Wives Association, which was called Behind the Bench, that I was a member of, but that organization has disbanded and there's another organization now. But with that organization, if you have to get a divorce for whatever reason, even if it's for your own good, you can potentially not be a member. So with our organization, we are here for WHIPs no matter what. You know, we're there's no door that can be shut on you. We're here. You will never lose your sisterhood or your network with Women Inside Professional Sports, and that is the difference between us and other organizations, not just the NBA Wives Association. That is a great organization, but we are here for the long haul, no matter what your marital status is. That's the difference with our organization, and we are here to fortify WHIPs because we are asked to do so many things, and people forget that we need to be poured into at times. So we fortify each other and then go out as a collective to mentor kids and give back to other women and to impact our communities as a group, as a whole. So that is what our mission is.
Now, for all three of you, I'm sure you guys can ask this. When you see the programs, there's been a number of shows that have shown professional basketball wives. Is there anything that you see about them that just makes you literally want to just close your eyes and just say, or you guys are like, that's true. That happens.
Well, listen, there's the the bad, the good, the bad, and the ugly in professional sports, if we're being honest. Now, some of us choose not to air our dirty laundry like that and put it in public, but those are things that go on. But in our network, we are sisters. So we're not breaking bottles. We're not over each other's heads. We're not throwing drinks in each other's faces. We're not doing any of those things. And it's no shade, but that's just the facts. We're not doing that. We are here to empower, uplift, and strengthen each other, and to put our best feet forward, so to speak, and not to show all that stuff. I just don't think it's necessary. Although it does happen, life happens, but that's just not how our network is. Let me say that's not how we were set up.
Marcia, how you've been involved with WIPS from the very beginning. What is your connection? Because we have you as an international marketing professional.
Well, in addition to my profession, I'm also a sports diplomat, and I sit on international sports platforms, including the Vatican's Initiative on Sports, the United Nations Initiative on Sports, and also in the country of Qatar that I visit a lot, part of Save the Dream. But sports has always been important to me. During my time in Chicago, where I'm come from, I was a public information officer for special events, and all of that, the wins that our professional athletes, our clubs would make, I was responsible for our champion celebrations. But in addition to that, I know the importance of sports in our communities. So the one thing that I hated most that have happened when we talk about obesity, especially with children of color or Black children, is that the obesity is partially due because they took out physical education in the public school systems, right? And then you have all of the fat latent fast foods, which are cheaper for families to purchase rather than even going out to buying healthy food, which is much more costly. But also for me, sports is very important because I see it as music. Not only does music make the world go around, but so does the ball, right? In all of its forms. But what's really important too is that women in sports, I'm a social justice activist. So I talk about pay equity in sports, right? Whether it's to the NBA, the NFL, whatever the case might be, or the women counterparts to that. And the one thing that was tragic for me with Kobe's death, of course, losing this great person, businessman, a great human being, was that through his love for his daughter, who also perished unfortunately with him, that he saw that pay inequity, and that the reason why the Mambasita camps that he developed was to equalize that field. And I think because of him, it's becoming a little bit more pronounced. Women have always been in sports, right? When you think of the great tennis players that never got the due, right? And I was at a hockey match the other night, and I remember meeting women from the northern part of our country who actually played hockey, but we don't hear about them because they don't have the money to continue, and they're not supported collectively, and they don't get, unfortunately, the brand marketing or the sponsorships that most men would get. And unfortunately, too, a lot of the women who even play basketball for American women teams go intercontinental because they pay more money outside of the country for them, which, i.e., might be a problem. The reason why Brittany Grenier got into the situation that she did in
Yeah.
Russia. So I'm keen on sports. My grandchildren play sports. I promote it all over the world and see its importance and advocate it on international platforms.
You know, we're gonna get on Brittany, but I have to say this. Do you got any of you, and I want this for either one of you of the guests tonight to respond to this. Can you tell me what you think the reason is? Because from my understanding, for example, with the soccer, they play better than the guys, even the basketball teams. I mean,
Well, the issue is ticket sales.
Yeah,
That's up to the community, because they're paid because of ticket sales and merchandise that is sold. So we have to support their events. We have to buy tickets,
absolutely.
because that's the difference. That's what causes the issue.
Yeah,
Now they do have money. I'm not saying that to pay them regardless, but if they build up the ticket sales and everybody goes and supports their sporting events, then that will up their salaries. So, Joumana, you
absolutely.
have something to add?
Joumana, your mic is off.
Your mic is muted.
Your mic's muted. Can you see that? See if she can unmute. Oh, she may have dropped off. She'll come back on. But
Okay.
for example, with the sports, soccer, right? They
Mhm.
won all of those championship, all the games and
Yeah.
how do you explain not finding the money for them? I'm just
Right.
wondering, and I know that you guys weren't involved with that matter, but I'm just asking.
Mhm.
You
Well,
guys are behind the scenes and hearing the conversations.
well, I'm part owner of the Washington's soccer team. You
Ah,
know, so yeah, in fact, we're getting rings because they won the championship in 2021, and I'm going back to DC this coming weekend so that I can help them to celebrate. But what Jazette has said, even on the collegiate level, I went to a game for women's sports. The tickets are like $1, right? And then we
Yeah.
also have to look at the women who actually own teams, like the Jazz in Chicago is owned by a woman. Sheila C. Johnson, former co-owner of BET. She's part owner of the Mystics. She owns part of the Wizards. And I think she's part of owner too of this soccer team that's in Washington, D.C. And as well as that, there's other sports that are emerging too for African-American women, such as lacrosse. Joumana, you.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. First, I want to apologize. I was in the city and went to my dentist's office to, get on this call. So this is my dentist's office. And I'm using his stuff, and I'm like all over the place.
it's a good
But I
background.
made it.
It's a good background. I was going to ask you who's the guy standing there smiling, but I guess
Listen, he does grills.
It's all
And this guy's he's got all the clients. But no, you guys are saying such important and such like amazing things, from the fact of whips and us all supporting one another. And I think that's what attracted me to kind of getting involved is, the women getting just each other's support. And I think that I would be selfish not to share my experience and my wisdom with other women. And it was, really just amazing listening to everything, even that, I feel like I'm learning things about Marcia every time I hear her speak. I mean, when will I know everything about you? But it's all so amazing, and I'm just so delighted to be part of it.
Now you're a TV host, you're a journalist. This is close to home to you, right? You
Yes.
have an incredible. I love your headshot. So, do you do anything with sports, or have you done anything with sports?
Oh gosh, so I worked with NBA TV for about 5 years. Yeah, and I did lots of freelance with ESPN and all kinds of sports magazines, and it's a different world for women. It is, and it's funny. I was just kind of talking to a friend about it yesterday. We were kind of reminiscing about how different things were then as they are just getting better now. But it was, there was a time where you didn't even, it was the norm. You didn't fight it. You didn't mention it. You knew that you weren't going to get fair pay. You were the co-host. You were the, the woman that this is not your space. Be cute. I actually am proud to say that I was offered a show. I'm not going to name any names or whatever, but it was a show where it was, 2 men and myself, and we were going to be sitting on a couch, just, talking about sports, but they did not like my choice of dress. They wanted me to just kind of be a little sexier and I'm like, no, that's not, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? I wasn't dressing like, like a hip hop dancer or anything. Like, I don't know what to give you an example, but they didn't want like the pantsuit and the, and I kind of thought, well, then you don't want me, you know what I mean? You just want to have some arm candy on there. And so it's a fight we've been fighting for a long time.
So Joumana, that has to be a big area because I mean, you are a beautiful woman. To be able to be taken seriously in this industry. And Jazette, I'm sure people have come to you on that front as well. Just because you're beautiful doesn't mean that you don't want to be taken seriously and that you can't do the job. And are you seeing any changes for the positive? I mean, real changes, not just making statements and then you hire a couple of friends who you just give them titles and there's nothing else that they have. Are you seeing real change?
Are you asking me?
I feel like
go ahead, Joumana.
Both of us. I feel like there is some change. We've got a long way to go, but even like when Jazette asked me to co-chair this event, and she asked me to start working with Marcia on like finding women to honor, I was overwhelmed. Like at first, I kind of was like, oh, that should be easy, and then the next thing I know, there was like so many.
A ton.
And
Really?
yeah, and I'm kind of like the VP of the Lakers and the, you know, so we have come a long way. You know, we're doing
Yeah.
okay, but we still have lots to go.
Yeah.
And
And
one of the
I feel like go ahead, Marcia.
No, I was going to say, when you were talking about extraordinary women, we have like Santia Det, who is famous for American football. She's a track star and an ab queen. We
Yep.
are honoring a young lady from Somalia. She's Somalian American. Her name is Joumana Kidd. She actually plays basketball like the men in a hijab and total modest wear. She's
Really?
absolutely
Amazing.
phenomenal,
Yeah.
amazing.
And
Yeah.
Joumana, why don't you share some of our other honorees?
Yeah, so we've got Tracy Morning, who is the former wife of Alonzo Mourning,
Yes.
and a very close friend of mine. And because I, you know, always kind of, you know, and I'm not saying anything bad about Alonzo here, I promise, but she's the mind and the, you know, behind all that, the, you know, the charity stuff that they've done and they've built, and she's still kind of, you know, heading all that. She's just such a powerful woman, an author, you know. Then we've got Leah Pump, who is just, you know, phenomenal as far as like, you know, being, you know, a pillar for young women and motivating and inspiring young girls, and, you know, focusing on education. And we've got Keisha Nix, who is the vice president of the Lakers. We've got Seema Sadekar, who is a professional golfer. Gosh, I should
Tommy
have like
Rose and Lisa Leslie with Aston Rose, the new real estate company that they started.
You know, ladies, I want to take this opportunity. Wait, say it again.
What I was going to say, Al LaForce, who's the headline reporter for NBA on TNT.
Ali LaForce, yes. And we have Beautiful Brawlers and Boxing Meets Beauty with our Latina sisters who have their professional boxers, and they help mentor them from the time they're girls to grow them up to be pro boxers. We have Kaylee Reese, and we have Melissa Harville LeBron, who was the first Black female owner of a NASCAR team. So we have some phenomenal we're honoring a lot of phenomenal women, and we're like very, very excited about it. Very excited.
Well, I would like to and I know we're in the middle of just doing this interview here, but I would like to invite the three of you back, and I'd like for us to do a 1-hour show, and I'd like to have us bring up the pictures and each picture, because this is something that stays on social media after we do the show. It's forever in the universe. And I want people to see the faces. I want them to hear the stories. And we can do the people that you're honoring, but we can also take the time to talk about the other women that you just didn't have room. Not that they weren't great, not that they weren't wonderful, because we have to start doing this stuff now, and not waiting until later, and not waiting for someone else to think that it's important to talk about, but right now when they're here and they're doing things, because hearing these stories motivate little Black and brown girls all over the country to know that they can do, and women are doing it. We just don't know it.
Yeah, I would love to. And I just have to,
that would be amazing.
I need to shout out my daughter, Ajay English Wynn, who is my partner in business, my partner in crime, my partner in everything. And because we could not do any of this without her. She's like right at my joint at my hip for everything that we have going on. So she couldn't be here, but I wanted to say thank you to her so everyone can hear me tell her how much we appreciate everything.
I want to piggyback off that, because I want to say that's one thing about Jazette that I really love is, and what really drew me to like really wanting to support with Whips, is that she is constantly thinking of lifting other women. She constantly is. And even to the point where she gets because I have 2 daughters, and she gets them involved in ways that, you know, I didn't even think of it, you know, and she's just, her main focus is really lifting up women, and it's so genuine, and I love it. And so
thank you so much.
But Jazette, you can't leave without telling everyone about the event, the date.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, we're having Diamonds in Sports is a series of events that we're having in New York City. October the 27th is our awards, a presentation and cocktail reception. We're going to have a phenomenal fashion experience Tronus is one of our partners. They're going to be featuring their sportswear line. We have zipper handbag lines. We have a phenomenal sponsor that's come aboard that's going to help us pull everything together. And then we have Patrice. She's Patiera. She's one of our whips, and she's going to oversee decor. Then we have our community service, which is the next day on Friday. We're going to mentor 100 Black girls. We have Ebony Carrington and Satrina Boyce who are chairing that part of the weekend. And so we're super excited about that. We're going to mentor the girls. We have a program called Females Are Phenoms. So we will conduct that program. And then we're going to build bags that we're going to donate to the local shelters to teach the girls how to pay it forward. Then the next day, which is the Synergy Luncheon, it's a private luncheon for whips where we'll fortify each other, pour back in. We'll do some wellness events. We also have smaller events in between just so that we have other things to do while we're in the city. We're going to take the city by storm. So we're super excited. Wells Fargo is one of our sponsors, and we have other sponsors that we're talking to right now, but we just want to announce Wells Fargo because we have a solid commitment from them as of right now. So Joumana and Marcia are the executive co-chairs for the 3 days, and we have other help. We have Arian May and Miss Sylvia White who are helping us with fundraising. We have a phenomenal group of women. Cynthia Robles she's Santia Deck's mother. She heads up Tronus, the apparel line. So we have a ton of phenomenal women that are involved, and we're very excited. And I know that this weekend is going to be fantastic.
Joumana, what do you hope people take away from the weekend with the whip celebration in October in New York?
I think one of the biggest things would be just, because I get a lot of people kind of, to tell me exactly, like, what is the organization for? Or I think to take away that, never to take it lightly how much support is important, and not to assume that just because someone may have had that lifestyle for however long it was, or whether it was in the NFL, or that there are so many women out there that are suffering alone, whether it's because of pride that they don't want to show that, oh gosh, how embarrassing for people to know where I'm at now, to people who just never had a chance, and I think that that's the biggest thing I want them to take away, that these are women who are genuinely just like everyone else, who have their ups and downs, and can really hit some really lows in life and need that support, and how important that is, and how more common it is than you would know or think.
Right.
Marcia, is there assistance? I know Jazette was talking a little bit about that, but I'm always concerned about these young, phenomenal athletes when they go into sports and they're not prepared for the money and the things that entice you and that can get you off track. And so you can make all these millions and then be broke for the rest of your life, or you're out of sport. Is there any financial components that you guys work with, the parents or the athletes, or is there any components like that?
I think that was more of a problem with the men athletes and the women, because first of all, they're not getting paid that much for them to waste that much, right? And we have always been more fiduciary responsible for that. But there will be some conversations on wealth management, Jazette, I believe, within our conference itself.
Yes.
Because it really is important, especially since they're always kind of behind the 8 ball anywhere. So we want to make sure that first they get paid enough as advocates, so that hopefully they will never have that problem, but at least can help them to steer that they can make right investments, because just like the men can get injured, so do the women. The longevity in sports for any gender, it's not a given. So hopefully they will be more responsible, which I think most of the women are. I haven't read many stories about professional women athletes really tanking and going under as we have their male counterparts across all of the genres of sports, to my knowledge.
And then, as I stated, I was married to a pro, and now my son is a professional. So we learned from mistakes, growing pains, when we were younger. So my son is a professional. He's not having those issues. And then I have another son who has a clothing line and that has also taken pointers from past issues that we had, when we were youthful. So my kids don't, we're not
that strong woman. That strong woman in front of them.
That's right. Yeah.
You have to learn from your mistakes. We were able to recover in enough time, in my ex's career, but certainly my children are not making those same mistakes again.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So, Marcia,
Yeah.
when it comes down to what needs to be done, how can whips help the process of getting female athletes to be paid a fair salary commensurable to the men?
Well, it takes an activity in which engaging the spectators, right? The appreciation. So it's not as if you can go to the WNBA and say, pay more money, because it is based upon the kind of advertisements or the sponsors dollars that they get, which they're cut into the owners get paid, so the owners can partially pay for the athletes, right? But then too, we have even a more serious problem with women, which is highly charged. And I would only surface the conversation now, but as a social activist, is something I don't mind putting my name out there for, is when you have, the transgendered men performing sports now. I mean, I kind of lament you got this far as women, and then you have, individuals, and this is not about someone's sexual orientation or what they decide to do and feel and think and want to be in their world. But when it comes to competing against women, you still have the hormones, because if women took more hormones to compete, to have testosterone, then they would be put out of the sport because it's doping, right? So what you could have a man competing for women who can be surgically transformed, but the hormone levels does not decrease unless they take estrogen, which is a form of doping too. So the complexity and the future for women in sports, as we saw in the Olympic Games, right, can be challenging as well. So right now you're finally getting onto the finishing line, and here comes something else. And it's something that has to be taken seriously across the board for professional athletes. It's not a popular subject, but it's one to take into account. Can you imagine Venus and Serena Williams being able not to be able to be who they are if they as strong as these women are, right? I'm sure that most of the male players would not want to play against them, but even Venus and Serena said, like, hey, if this guy played against me, on a long term, they would defeat me, So it's something that we have to take account as we support women in sports. And how do we talk about this gingerly in a highly charged conversation about one's sexual orientation or one's sense of oneself, which has become politically charged all of a sudden when women are finally being highlighted and given these opportunities?
Do you think that there should be, I mean, in all fairness, because I know that I was watching TV and talking to my daughter, it was a swimming competition, and the gentleman was a male, and then he had his gender change and as a female, he won. Do you think there needs to be a separate category?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That's what but you'd have to have enough athletes.
Let's take a vote.
Exactly.
I'm not putting anyone down. I'm just saying, do you think there should be a separate category? Okay.
Absolutely.
That's and you're right, Marcia and Jazette and Joumana. It is a very highly charged, because people, when you say something, it's like, well, you don't accept us or you don't. And we have to admit, I even when I think of the weakest, smallest man, in most cases could probably overtake a woman. So we have to understand there's just certain things that whether we feel different inside and we are different people, our makeup does make us stronger in certain situations, right? I didn't say smarter. I said perhaps stronger in certain situations. So, you know what? I'm telling you, I am really excited about what it is that you're doing. I love how you're encouraging women that are in the arena of professional sports, whether it's a mother, a wife, ex-wife, because it doesn't matter to you.
It doesn't matter.
A grandmother, to be able to be a part of it. If you would, anyone, tell me again the date of the celebration in October and how they can get more information.
October 27th, 28th, and the 29th. Visit our website, se5whips.com. We are doing a model call for whips right now. And contact us at info@se5whips.com. Anybody that wants to volunteer or donate, we have Marcia Kidd, who's going to be on the pink carpet as a correspondent for us. That's going to be interviewing everyone. We have CD4L Apparel, who's donating T-shirts to our community service. There are a ton of ways to get involved. Follow us on Speak English 5 Inc. on Instagram. Look for us on Facebook. Joumana and Marcia will be reposting everything that we have going on. So please follow us on social media. Again, the website is se5whips.com. Tickets are live now. Go get your tickets to get in the room, because we know that we're going to sell out soon. Thank you so much.
Really
everything she said.
really excited, and I want to give. I know we have like less than a minute left. Marcia, can you give us any closing words, and then we're going to go to you, Joumana.
Don't put women behind the 8 ball.
Perfect. Yeah.
You she kind of took I was just going to say, don't underestimate a woman.
Yeah, the same thing. It's great.
I love it. Jazette, Marcia, Joumana, I'm excited about WIPS. I'm excited about what you are doing and how you're encouraging people. And I really meant that. We're going to find a date and we're going to talk about, and I want us all to learn 1 hour, you guys highlighting people and telling their stories and sharing pictures and images so we can share this with other people across the world. I also love the fact that you're doing all nationalities, Black, white, Hebrew. I love it. I just love that you have everybody inclusive. This is wonderful.
Well, Taylor, we want you to come and cover the events.
Yeah.
We would love to have you come and cover.
You heard that. I will absolutely be there. Absolutely. I would love to be able to
Perfect.
I'm really excited. Ladies, this will not be the last time we talk. This has been really exciting to hear. We need stories like this, and we need women like you that are pushing and continuing to speak for those who can't be heard at this point, but they do have a voice. Again, I have to thank you, Jazette, Marcia, and Joumana, for taking your time and joining me tonight here on NNPA and Black Press USA. Well, everyone, I hate to wrap it up, but don't worry, we're going to bring it back for a full hour. That'll do it for tonight's show. Until next week, God bless and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.